Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of FNS Wrestling. I am your host, and along with me, as always, is my co host and 3 days from teenager.
Um, I would say so. Yeah.
It's Jack. Say hi, Jack.
What's up?
We'd just like to take a couple seconds to thank all of the people who checked out our, I think it was like a 7-minute preview episode that we posted
Yeah, it was
last
like
week.
7 minutes.
We were quite surprised by the number of people that looked at it.
Yeah, it was great for the first viewing.
So I think we now know exactly how many friends and family we have. However,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just kidding. Hopefully we'll pick up some viewers we don't know as well.
To start.
So let's see. First of all, we're just going to start out with just chat for a little bit, I think is how we'll start our weekly show. We've sort of got a format plan. Again, we're very new to this, so things
Go
may
through the
change.
format.
May change as we go. We'll see how it goes. So what I wanted to ask you, Jackson, because shockingly, I wasn't here for the first time we were watching AEW, which is rare. We all watch everything together, but I happened to be away. So I was curious, although I have to admit I did receive some spy surveillance photo of what your process. But what was your process for when you had to sit down and you're responsible for reviewing AEW?
Well, I wrote it down in a notebook, and I just realized now that I forgot it.
You forgot your notebook?
Yep.
Okay, so why don't you run and get it?
Okay.
And I will continue until you get back.
Hopefully Dad's entertaining. But
Yes. So he actually sat pen and paper with a notebook and took, I think, 5 pages of notes or something. I was away, so I was trying to take notes and watch on the same device, which was frustrating. But we'll see how it goes. And then we ended up watching NXT together and sort of taking notes together at that, but trying not to talk about anything until we sort of sat down together so that we didn't spoil anything for each other, so that our reactions here are real. As well, because I realize we do have some people that are listening who are not wrestling fans. They're just listening because they like us or are related to us or are obligated to listen in some way. So we may take some time to define some basic terms as they come up, because not everybody knows all of the inside lingo. So we may try to just educate as we go and hopefully be a little bit entertaining as well.
sorry, Mike fell. Okay,
So Jackson is back with his notes. We will get things started shortly.
Got like 5 pages of what I wrote down during AEW Dynamite.
Fantastic. So
Yeah.
let's move into our first segment, which will be news and rumors.
News and rumors.
So our first news item is that Kairi Sane is officially done with WWE. Jackson, would you care to elaborate on that for me?
Yep, so the recent set of Raw tapings, which it would have been this week and possibly next week, that's just her finishing up. She recently, I think, got married, so she's heading back to Japan. But good to hear that she's leaving on good terms, so it's not a bad exit or anything.
How did you feel about Kairi Sane? I mean, I know, but let the viewers know, what were your thoughts on her in general?
I think NXT was definitely her peak. I wasn't a huge fan of the gimmick. It was weird at times, like when she had the championship in like the Pirate's chest. But her heel run was definitely, it did not suit her at all. And I think just her last bit here in WWE was just kind of as Asuka's sidekick, which is, it's never the best, but she went out on a win against Bayley, so I think that's good though.
Yeah, I undeniable, her elbow drop looks good. I
Very.
wasn't a big fan. I find her almost so tiny that some of her offense doesn't look the most believable. Some of it doesn't look like it would hurt. Simply, she just doesn't have enough mass behind it, right? Same issue we sort of had with Riho.
I think she at least had a character, whereas AEW's Riho was not entertaining in the slightest.
Fair enough. So your second news point was that Kofi Kingston has suffered an injury. What was it, and what does that
I
mean
believe
going
it was
forward?
a back injury from what I've heard. And it seems a Big E singles push is imminent.
Which I've been waiting for years to happen.
I think a lot of people are probably waiting for that heel turn against the New Day.
For sure.
But this is a good start towards that, possibly.
I honestly think he could be a monster heel. Tons of personality. He can talk. He can wrestle. He's huge. He's powerful. He's sort of been running out a really good gimmick, I guess.
Yeah.
And by gimmick we just mean their character or what they're sort of doing. So
As for those who don't know, he's in a faction with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, who's also injured right now. They're called the New Day. They've been teaming since, I think late 2014, I believe it is. So they've been going for a good stretch. So I think they could do a big heel turn, but I would personally like to see that happen when the crowds are back, because I feel like it could really generate a good reaction.
That is a good point. It would make a difference. So basically 2 of the 3 members of his 3-man faction are out, so he has no choice, sort of. And unfortunately, that's what it takes sometimes.
And I think the the main event scene of SmackDown really needs it. Because despite Otis being Mr. Money in the Bank, I don't think he's going to be doing anything anytime soon. And I think Braun Strowman, he might be busy with Bray Wyatt, he might fight The Fiend, but I think Big E could provide a good challenger maybe against The Fiend, or who knows, maybe even Big E just winning the Intercontinental title again.
Yep.
That would be a good start.
That would be fantastic. I think he's a very talented guy, and he's waited pretty patiently, and he seems to be a good company
Much
guy
like Kofi.
that they don't need to worry about. So it would be great to push him. And let's be honest, as we're going to talk about in our next news bullet, there is nobody really watching anyways, so why not experiment with putting some new guys over, just seeing what they can do. And I'm sure if and when things get back to normal, they can just sort of treat it like this never existed, and it was sort of a trial run for a few of the stars.
And that's a great segue into our final story. Is AEW beats both Raw and SmackDown in the ratings this week.
So that sounds like on the surface that would be a pretty big deal. This is it's weird for me to say that SmackDown is their main show now, but it is in terms of the money they're getting.
Although it doesn't feel like it, because it really just seems like, because when they put it on Fox, they said they wanted to give them a little bit of a sports feel. I don't think they've done a good job with that at all.
No, they really haven't, other than remember when they did the draft and they tried to make it look like an official draft.
That was like the only thing, because, I mean, for those of you who don't know, what they've done on SmackDown, they did an angle with dog food. They had Otis, who is more of a comedy character, believe me, win the Money in the Bank, and just they did an angle where there's a urine test and like a bar fight just recently.
Yes.
And
in a nutshell, they did some things that weren't.
In a
very
nutshell,
enjoyable.
I don't think they really ever were actually going for that sports feel. I think it was just like they tried it at the draft, and I don't think they ever kept pushing for that.
And so when we say AEW, for those of you again who are just sort of new to this whole scene, AEW stands for All Elite Wrestling. It's sort of an upstart promotion by several wrestlers who were a huge deal in Japan. They started their own wrestling company in the United States,
And
it's
they are
just
backed financially by the cons.
yes. So they also have billionaire
Football
probably
family.
backers, so they can sort of try to compete with WWE. So it is being sort of presented as the alternative. It is
Very much so.
by far the product we prefer the most, partly for me just as someone who's watched wrestling for 30 plus years. Ouch. I'm seeing new people in new combinations, right? So regardless of what AEW is doing, the fact that I haven't seen these people for years, wrestling the same people for years, it definitely makes it more interesting. So the fact that this upstart program, this is their first week of outperforming Raw and SmackDown in the ratings, that's a pretty big deal, I hope, and a pretty good sign, because they are really putting out a largely different product, I would say.
Yeah, and speaking of like the thing you were saying about the new matches, is so currently Cody is their TNT champion, which is kind of their version of a TV title, and he's been defending it like regularly almost every week. And so that's allowing for a lot of new people to come in. For example, Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston have come in from the NWA. And I believe he's facing, I think that they announced some indie wrestler called Warhorse. And I also saw a thing about him possibly fighting former WWE star JTG. So this is really creating a lot of new matches for AEW, and that's pretty good.
And the interesting thing is the four guys that started the company. They have chosen not really to make themselves the stars right out of the gate. They are sort of taking their time and effort to build other people that maybe the wrestling community doesn't know as well, which I think is really unselfish.
Yeah, like for example, Cody, who is one of those guys. Obviously, he's the TNT champion now, but literally he had a match against Jericho when Jericho was the champion and lost. And the stipulation was he could never challenge for the title again. So I think that's really imminent. And the Young Bucks, who are the two
Best
of the
tag
other
team in the
guys,
world.
they
More
they
than
were in the
likely.
tag team title tournament to crown the first champions. They lost in what, it was like the
Yep,
first
to a
round, I
very
think?
young upstart team.
So yeah, they're definitely not just like going straight to the top.
Right.
And
And Kenny Omega, who is the fourth member of
yeah,
the group that started, he was pretty much without debate the best wrestler in the world for a couple
he
years.
was on a bit of a losing streak at the
Right,
beginning.
and he's
And now
still
he's in a tag team.
right. He
Which
still
is
hasn't
not
pushed himself as a single star. He's
so
yeah.
it's good
Anyways,
to see.
so I think that means we should probably transition from the news now, and we're going to
To
move
fall on
into
AEW?
our next segment, which is AEW Dynamite Review.
AEW Dynamite Review.
So this is the one that Jackson will more take the lead on. He's got the more detailed notes on this one, and I'll just sort of contribute, and then we'll reverse those roles when we get to NXT.
Yep.
So with that being said, Jackson, please tell us all about AEW
All right.
Dynamite from this week.
So obviously we got our intro for AEW, obviously like the intro song, whatever. And so speaking of that TNT title we were talking about earlier, that was actually the opening match. Cody issuing the open challenge once again, and I mentioned earlier it was NWA's Eddie Kingston.
Right.
Now for those of you who don't know, he's a wrestler in the NWA obviously. And I think the only other time I've really seen him is he was managing the OGs, which was
Yes.
Homicide and Hernandez
Yes.
against LAX with Conan
Yes.
when we went to Impact. So that's my big memory of Kingston. And now he's more of a wrestler.
So he's been around forever, and he's basically known as a very gifted mic worker. He's okay in the ring.
Yeah,
he
he
doesn't.
did cut a pretty good promo
He did.
pre-match.
He did. He was something about him. Cody's not a true grinder like he is, and right, he's had to work and fight and
Yeah.
scratch for everything, and Cody's had it handed to him.
Yeah.
He didn't look to be in the best shape and seemed to be a little bit tired in the match, but
Yeah.
he did cut a good promo. Sorry,
But that was helped by the fact that he challenged Cody to a no DQ match in this, which Cody accepted.
good. Sorry, carry on.
And so there was many like what we would call spots, which is like, or bumps. When you take a bump, it's like, I don't know, what would you say like a bump is? It's like when you take a big move or something.
Yes. So you got your back bump where you fall on your back,
Or
or
like
your
you could
front
go through a
bump, and
table,
all sorts
or
of different
like,
things. The performers are working together, right? So it's kind of it
Yeah.
takes the two people to make it look good.
And so there's stuff like exposed formats, and at one point they started doing a bit in the match where like Eddie Kingston would have a knee limp, so that was a big part in the match. And at one point he would go under the ring and grab a bag, and he would dump it out in the ring and turn out to be thumbtacks.
Sorry, were those not the longest thumbtacks you've ever seen? I actually have a note here that says extra long thumbtacks question mark.
I did not know that, but I'll take your word
They
for
looked
it.
like
There's certainly a lot of them though.
they looked like 40% longer than the normal
and like Cody
tacks.
like literally even before, so he would get power bombed on them, so like back first on a bunch of thumbtacks, and he would literally like step on, so like you can see later on there's like thumbtacks in the bottom of his boot.
Oh,
which
he
is
was
interesting.
instantly, his back was bloody and there were tons
Yeah,
of sticking
it
in
was
there.
kind of,
And
and then
this-
like at one point they were like, I think it was in the when Cody locked him in the figure four, which is a submission where like your legs are kind of in a four shape, which is why
Yeah.
it's called that, and it's like a submission targeting like one of the person's legs, and so basically he did it to target A. Kingston's knee that I mentioned, and so in it they were kind of like sitting up because it's a submission where you're on your back, right? And so they had like kind of a slap fight, but then eventually
Yes, I made note of some of those slaps looked pretty hard.
yeah, looked pretty good. And then Cody would win via submission with the figure four.
Good. I thought
Overall,
the match
it was a good opener.
Yeah, I thought the
It's a fun
match was
match.
fine. I'm not a huge fan of either guy, which
I
may
think
lead
the
into
no
it.
DQ stipulation definitely helped us though, because I feel like looking back in hindsight now, I feel like if it was a normal match, I don't think Eddie Kingston would have done as good and had good of a showing
Right, and
as
I
he
think
did here.
the story they're telling is that Cody is almost overworking himself, right?
Yeah.
Because being this fighting champion and
When
fighting,
he doesn't have to.
and that so that he's sort of struggling because he's just overworked. I'm not a Cody fan in general at times. I
I
find
think he's fine.
I just don't see anything about the man that is a face. And sorry, when we say face, it's short
That means,
for
like, good
baby
guy.
face. It means like the hero of the story. And the
And then
opposite, you'll
heels
hear
are
us say,
bad guys.
heel, which means like the villain of the story.
Yeah.
So he is being presented as a baby face, a good guy, but he,
Very much so.
I don't know, he boasts about how much money he has. He comes out with the most elaborate sort of pretentious entrance.
He has like a coach.
Even the way he dresses, he's wearing snakeskin boots and talking about his many $1,000 suits. I guess he's trying to be the modern day Ric Flair.
He even has like Arn Anderson as a coach. Like, I don't think every day, like, you could have that if you're a babyface, but I feel like that could also contribute to a heel.
He just feels like a heel to me, and he works a slower style than a lot of the people in AEW, which is fine. You need a mixture of all styles, I think. So
much like Flair.
I find most of his pay-per-view matches are pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyways, Kingston. I don't know if he's there for a long haul. It kind of makes me wonder who's left in NWA to wrestle, because they seem to have Ricky Starks now and
Yep.
Kingston. So we'll see. All right, so carry on. What was up next?
Next, we just had a little John Moxley kind of promo vignette. It was very straightforward. It wasn't much to look at, and basically the takeaway I took from this was basically what he was saying is, if he says he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it. It was very straightforward.
Yep.
Just nothing much. It was just kind of in between matches, which is fine. You need that in a weekly TV show.
Yeah, and just before that, I had a question, because they basically ran down right before the Moxley promo. They ran down the entire lineup for the show with graphics. So you know my memory, and I know yours. So do they always do this, or is it new?
I'm not sure that they could do it, but maybe not every time. I honestly don't.
I don't
pay too
remember
much
seeing it.
attention to
It was interesting, anyways. Not a
I
big
feel like
deal.
it's something they could do every time because it's definitely just kind of preparing you for what's to come.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense for them to do. They probably have done it previously, but I just might not have noticed.
The only other note I had on the Moxley promo was that something about he loves the sound of popping tendons, and that next time he has a hold of Cage's arm, he's not going to
Yeah.
let go, right? So, decent, pretty standard,
Yeah.
quick little promo. Okay, moving on.
And next we had MJF versus a jobber, and now there's another time to explain wrestling terminology. Jobber is someone, it's usually local town competitors. They're just brought in to make the other person look good, just lose, and
So respect the jobber. What's
Yeah.
his name? He's got a name.
Griff Garrison.
There you go.
And so there's a wrestler that MJF is kind of feuding with named Jungle Boy, and this guy kind of looks like a bigger version of him, so we called him Jungle Man. And so he did like a little heel promo to open the thing, and he would like give an introduction. He would like let Griff Garrison introduce himself, and then he would mock him, and then he would like turn around and just hit him with the mic.
Yes, and I noticed, I thought when he was mocking Griff's nickname, which I think was the Ivy League MVP, I actually looked like MJF cracked up a little bit. Like he was, like, I wrote down shoot laugh, which, and is another sort of insider term. Shoot means like real, and work means like not real. So when I say a shoot laugh, I felt like it was like an out of character. He actually
And then we
started
went
laughing.
to a picture-in-picture commercial, except we didn't, because there was no picture-in-picture.
Right. So MJF is young. I think he's about 23. He is widely considered one of the best talkers in the game right now. His in-ring work is sort of improving,
It's fine.
I feel like.
I don't think he needs a submission finisher, because I don't think that's what he's the best at, but
He's nowhere
it'll improve.
is nowhere near as good in the ring as on the mic yet, but he is a great heel. He gets massive heat from the audience, and that means like they'll actively root against him and boo him, which is what you want to be doing as a heel.
And so in this match, he would, after beating the crap out of this guy, he would cut a mid-match promo, which is him talking, and he would try to get Kirk Harrison to make him try to make him say that he's undefeated, because MJF is not pinned or submitted in singles competition.
Right.
And
Largely through cheating a lot of times.
Yeah,
The old school heel tactics,
but
which
still
are great.
counts.
Oh, absolutely.
And so he refuses, but then gets beaten down and says it anyway. And MJF wins with the move they called the Heat Seeker.
I wrote that down too.
Which was so he had Griff Garrison draped over the middle rope, and then he would kind of do like some sort of slingshot pile driver maneuver.
Yeah, I said new finisher, Heat Seeker, draping, jumping, pile driver, question mark?
Yeah. I actually quite enjoyed that as a finishing move. I think that could very much work rather than a salt of the earth Fujiwara armbar submission. I think it looked better. And this is just basically your standard squash match, which is squash matches tend to be involving jobbers, where it's just like totally one-sided match.
Yep, they're generally there to make the higher position star look good.
Basically,
right?
in this case, it'd be MJF.
And another term that would come out of that is the term selling, where you're trying to make the offense of the other person look good. So when they hit you, you react as though you've really been hit.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of the jobber, is to make the the established star
Do we
looking
have a
good.
charger? Because this computer's running low.
You would have to run and grab that, sir.
Yeah. Do you have notes on the Brian? Okay, so next we had a Brian Cage segment, and he had his manager Rectangle Taz with him.
I thought, what about the
Just Taz.
Britt Baker thing? Did you miss that?
Oh, I skipped that.
With
yeah.
I have that very,
The Britt
very
Baker.
graphic picture of them like going up her nose with.
Oh yeah, the Britt Baker thing. Do you want to cover that quick while I grab a charger?
Sure, she basically
I'll be right
was
back.
just updating us on with Tony and Reba, and I didn't write specifically what she said, but she is fantastic. She is the top heel in the business for me right now, and that's saying a lot because when AEW started, they were pushing her as a baby face, and she was not very effective, and then she just sort of started switching to this new heel persona, and she is fantastic. She is an actual dentist in real life and plays off of that in most of her promos and things. So she is just a fantastic talker. Her interactions with Reba and Tony are always entertaining. One of the more entertaining consistently things on AEW and probably in wrestling in my opinion right now. So the next part of this was before we get to Taz. I also had Jack that Darby Allin was a recap of Darby Allin last week, and then it quickly cut to Taz in the ring with Cage. So Darby Allin is another one of our favorites because I've never really seen him anywhere, just in a couple indie things we've seen. So I prefer the stars that they're going to sort of make for themselves and that aren't just sort of WWE stars coming over and performing there. So Darby Allin is a small sort of skateboarding daredevil, face paint, really kind of a cool character, dark, somewhat sinister. It's like he's a smaller, modern Sting
His entrance
almost.
is so cool to the point where I'm sad that they got rid of the sloped ramp because he would skateboard down the ramp. And his theme song goes so well with it. If you know, you know, but search up Darby Allin entrance on YouTube and then watch it because it's very good.
So now you're back with your laptop powered, sir. We were at basically with Taz is now in the ring with Cage.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I think it was last week, right? The Fight for the Fallen episode of Dynamite, which is like just a special event version of their weekly show, which they tend to do sometimes. So, yep. And then we mentioned Ricky Starks earlier. So apparently when Brian Cage was defending his FTW title, and Dad, would you like to give some backstory on that title?
One thing I just wanted to go back to about the Taz promo is that at the time, at the end of the match at the last pay-per-view, when Taz threw in the towel for Cage, I didn't love that ending, but his actual explanation helped a little bit. He was basically saying that Cage, because he is a machine, which is how they're sort of pushing him as this machine, sort of more
One
than
of his
human,
nicknames.
that as a machine he would never tap, so that if Taz as a businessman made a good business decision and had the wrestler he manages quit, because he would never quit for himself, so he had to throw in the towel for his client because his client would be out for months with a destroyed arm because he would never quit.
Yeah, see, another reason I like this was because I feel like WWE, if they did this, they would never give this thorough explanation that actually makes sense. Because with this, I feel like they turned into meh finish into it makes sense. It was actually
exactly
pretty
how
good
I felt and why I
hindsight.
made a note of it. They took something that in the moment I didn't love and added a bit more story and depth to it and
I
made
actually
me
quite
enjoy it.
enjoyed the promo for that reason. And would you like to give some backstory on the FTW title?
So that was, this is sort of super old school. In the 90s in ECW, you had Taz was a wrestler there, now the manager for Cage, and he had his own title that he brought in, and it was the FTW title. So it's sort of the idea he's bringing it back and presenting it. I kind of liked the idea because at the time Moxley, the champion, right, was unable to defend because he was off for COVID concerns. His wife had contracted it and he was obviously quarantining and being cautious. So in storyline, they made that sort of that Moxley is hiding behind this virus because he knows he can't beat Cage, and that Cage sort of deserves this made-up title because the actual champion won't fight him. So that was basically it. He's bringing back a title that he sort of, I don't know if he
Literally
created.
has his name at the top of the faceplate, which is the center part of the belt.
So I don't know if it's going to be an actual title defended on the show. I kind of hope
it's been defended on AEW Dark, which is, they have it on YouTube every Tuesday. It's just kind of just like mostly those squash matches, like the one we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's strictly an
And just,
online
like,
show that
yeah.
I'll get into it a bit later. They use to sort of advance storylines and have mostly squash and enhancement matches.
Speaking of advancing storylines, Ricky Starks, who we mentioned earlier, he actually helped Cage out on Dark. I forget. I think it was with Darby Allin or something like that. And basically, Darby Allin would interrupt Taz's promo, and this would come back again. And then Ricky Starks would attack him, and then Brian Cage would do a move where he power bombs Darby Allin on like the ramp, because they have a ramp that's like level with the ring, so it's just straight. And then he would just chuck him into the ring with the power bomb.
So you ready for a bit of an old man rant here?
Sure.
A mini tiny baby rant.
I guess.
So as you said, where was it? You almost said exactly what I had. That they apparently Ricky Starks helped out Cage on Dark, right? Is what I had. So I do not love that they advance storylines and other things outside of their show. So they're doing things on Dark, which I will occasionally watch when I have time, but they're also advancing storylines on Twitter and stuff like that, which, as you know, is not my favorite thing, and I don't have it and I don't look at it. So I know that's just me. Most of their target demographic is on those things all the time, but for me, it's sort of when I do watch the show, it's kind of out of the blue because it's something that I wasn't up on, these little developments that I have to sort of keep track of outside of their show. So I guess that is my complaint about that. Carry on, sir.
And Jon Moxley, the AEW champion, would come to make a save with the barbed wire bat, which is baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, obviously. And Ricky Starks and Brian Cage would retreat out of the ring because they are heels.
Yes, I don't know how I feel about the Starks-Taz combination. Cage and Taz makes total sense because, no offense, but Cage is not very good on the mic and Taz is. So it's the classic, you have this strong wrestler, looks great, but he doesn't speak very well.
Much like Brock Lesnar, WWE with Paul Heyman.
Right, so you pair him with someone. Ricky Starks can cut a promo. Ricky Starks does have some charisma, so I don't think he needs anyone speaking for him.
But the thing with this they could do is they could have them run as an actual tag team and maybe win the belts, and then that would be a decent start for Ricky Starks.
It would, and I like the combination of the power guy and the speed guy in tag teams as well. Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, I'll give AEW the benefit of the doubt a lot of times. Like, if I'll give them a chance to show me that this is going to work, because they don't have a long history of disappointing me.
Yeah, it's like WWE, where time and time again they've proven that they can't really do it, I guess.
Okay, so what was next? I have something about a women's tag cup promo.
And so they have announced a women's tag team tournament this summer, and it's going to have 16 women and 8 teams. It's just going to be a tag team cup tournament, and I think this is interesting. It's obviously it's just the furtherment of the women's evolution in professional wrestling.
And I'm a sucker for a tournament, as you know.
Yeah, tournaments are great, so I'm pleased to see another tournament. And honestly, they have like a couple of women's tag teams, but I think this will just further their division, which has been one of their weaker points, surprisingly.
True. In the heads-up comparison to something like NXT, the women's division is a bit behind.
The women's title, it's so small. I'm gonna do a rant right now, actually. The belt, it's like so small. The faceplate, it's just like too small, and the shape is weird too. It's just like the belt is not good. It looks so small. At first, I thought it was like for Riho, who was the first champion, because she's like super tiny. She's not even like 100 pounds. But then they gave it to Nyla Rose, who's like way bigger,
significally larger. Yeah.
and now it's on Hikaru Shida, who's normal size, I would say, but it just looks so weird. It's just small. It's like a toy belt, honestly.
Right, so this is my son, and the more you listen to this, the more you will notice he is extremely detail-oriented, and things that I wouldn't notice or care about.
It's just a bad belt. It's so small.
Fixates on, so forgive him.
I just can't say, I'm sorry, but I just can't take it.
It's okay. So I think they will have to sort of maybe flesh out their women's roster too, because as you're saying, I don't know if they have enough tag teams
on their own. But they did debut 2 women's wrestlers, which we'll be talking about later.
And I know I just sort of complained about AEW Dark, but I did actually watch the first little bit of it, and there was a segment with Brandy and Allie, and I actually liked it and thought their chemistry was good.
They are, yes, one of the tag teams that's now been established in the women's division. I assume they'll be in that tag team cup.
I assume it's kind of being built around them almost, because they have the only tag team with any sort of storyline right
I
now.
could see someone teaming with Penelope Ford. Maybe Nyla Rose and Penelope Ford because they were in a match before,
Yeah,
right?
could be.
So.
I guess we'll see.
All right. Next, we have a interview with Canada's own Chris Jericho, Le Champion, and basically he would just talk trash about Jurassic Express because, for those of you who don't know, last week on AEW Dynamite, Orange Cassidy, who's great by the way, orange juice would come out from like the rafters above the ring. Basically, orange juice just came down on Jericho and his group, the Inner Circle, and Jurassic Express laughed about it last week. Jurassic Express's pint size, Mr. Fun size, Marco Stunt, and then Jungle Boy, who we mentioned, and Luchasaurus, who's like got a dinosaur gimmick, but promise that's not as dumb as it sounds. And he just basically mocks each member, but that's because they're in a tag team match in the main event. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager.
Did you mention Jericho was still wearing the same jacket?
Oh yeah, Jericho's wearing the same jacket that's stained by orange juice. And so Jake Hager, who is
really boring
MMA star, I think.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
He's not.
I don't want to dislike anyone in wrestling. Being a wrestling fan, I just want to be positive and love it, but I just can't. I find him anti-charismatic. I catch myself.
Basically, they are teaming against Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy in the main event.
I catch myself looking away when he's
more on that later. But next, we would have the Young Bucks, who we've mentioned already, and then the Butcher and the Blade, who are another tag team, in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Basically, for those of you who don't know, you can win a normal match, obviously by pinfall or submission. Those that count as falls. So then, basically, Falls Count Anywhere is you can pin or submit one of your opponents anywhere in the arena.
And this one starts in a kitchen, right?
Yeah, starts in a kitchen because I guess Butcher and the Blade, right?
Yep.
And so the Young Bucks are Nick and Matt Jackson, brother tandem. And so Nick Jackson would be pinned on one of like the kitchen carts, which is kind of funny. And then they would move to like what they called the concourse.
Yep.
So basically where AEW is being filmed right now is their like core spot is in Daly's place because like we mentioned, the Khans, who are the financial backing for AEW, own the Jacksonville Jaguars,
That's
right?
correct. Yep.
So they're like right near the stadium. So basically where they're filming is like kind of outside the stadium, I believe.
Yeah, and it's
right?
basically an open air stadium, which obviously during this time
and it creates a cool
better.
look occasionally, like when it's like the sky. It was like I remember the one time it was like a really cool color actually.
It was.
Anyways, and then the Blade, he would try to like ram a cart into one of them, and then they would move, and they just like kind of went into the post, and it was kind of funny. And then they would start fighting near truck, and Matt Jackson would be sent into the truck.
And I made a note of I liked the camera angle of him running down the inside of the truck and out to jump onto them.
That's my next note actually, that
Sorry.
he would do a running swanton out, which if you don't know, it's just basically like they do kind of a half front flip and land on their back. Because the senton is landing on your back, so it's like a swanton bomb.
At one point, they picked up Nick and ran him headfirst into the truck, and it was his own image on the side of the truck, and they ran him into his own picture, which was kind of cute.
And Matt Jackson would do like a leg drop with the pan sheet on the Butcher, and Butcher put him through a table, which is actually quite a nice spot. I very much enjoyed that. And Blade would get a double super kick, and he would fall onto the escalator as he slides up. And then we would go to a commercial break, which is once again not picture-in-picture.
Right, and the one point, I don't know when it was, if it was here, I think it's coming up, JR literally, the host, counts us down to picture-in-picture in 3, 2, 1,
there.
And then no.
But, to draw in comparison, NXT, it was there.
It may be not in Canada, who knows, right? Like, it may be...
But the weird thing is we do get it sometimes,
we do.
So...
We just never know when.
It's just inconsistent, maybe.
And I'm not going to lie,
so then,
fast-forward
when we come back from post-commercial break... they're now at the ringside area, so just like around the ring, which is why it's called ringside area. Blade misses a tope con hilo, which is jumping, kind of doing like the swanton over the top rope, and he misses one of the Young Bucks, which I think was supposed to happen. But then he also misses the table I think he was supposed to go through. And I believe.
Yes.
I heard a news report actually that he's one of the stars who got injured on AEW.
I have multiple. Blade missing table. Ouch.
Yeah.
Yes.
He like hit his face off the table. it looked good, but probably because it was real.
Yes.
And so now they're in the ring, and Butcher's on the rope, so he's like draped across the second rope, just kind of draping there. And Nick Jackson just literally just throws a chair at his face.
Yes. And I didn't love that didn't look protected either. In this day and age, they're supposed to be getting hands up before chair shots. This looked like it got through.
For those of you who don't know, in like ECW and like in the Attitude Era, late 90s, they would just do unprotected chair shots right to the head.
And with what we know about
even in the early
CTE
2000s
and concussions and everything else, it's not. I don't like.
With
to
all
see
the tragedies
unprotected.
happening in professional wrestling, I think it's definitely they should be more. They should be not really doing it at all because I think everybody's much more aware. But I mean,
just put your hands up. It still looks good.
Anyways, the Butcher and Blade would do a powerbomb neckbreaker combo on, I think it was Matt Jackson on the ramp, which looked pretty cool. And then now they're on the entranceway, and then the Young Bucks would hit a double super kick on Butcher, and what they call a BTE trigger on the Blade.
Which looked pretty awesome.
And so basically, what the BTE trigger was is there's this move called the Kamigoye knee strike, which is. So you grab both of your opponent's hands and say they would be on their knees, and then you pull them in and you knee them right in the face.
Drive your
unprotected.
knee through their face.
Well, obviously not, but that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And basically what they did is they call it a BT trigger. BT stands for Being the Elite. It's a YouTube series they do. I think it's Tuesdays, I feel like. I'm not sure. But anyways, they would, each of them grabbed one hand and did a knee from either side. So then Excalibur, who's one of the commentators, had a commentary botch.
Wears a full luchador mask while commentating.
He had a commentary botch. I forget what it was. Do you remember?
I don't. I didn't make a note of it.
Anyways, and then they would put Butcher and Blade. Oh, I actually do have what the botch is.
What was it?
It's he called Butcher Blade.
Oh, nice.
So he mixed up the two.
Even though they look nothing alike.
And so the Young Bucks would dive on both guys through tables for the win.
Right.
Matt Jackson would hit an elbow drop on, I believe, Butcher, and Nick Jackson with a swanton on the Blade, and Nick Jackson would get the pinfall.
Very fun match.
Yep. Interesting beginning.
Even Butcher, who I find sometimes is a little, he's clearly behind the others in his wrestling ability, and there's times where I find he's standing around waiting for something to happen. But this looked good. He had a couple nice moves. The Young Bucks are fantastic. I don't even really want to like them because it's just hard not to. No matter what you say about them, pretty much any match they have is exciting and fun. And if you don't watch wrestling and you just want to see what we're talking about, check out a Young Bucks match and you'll probably be happy.
Yep. And next we'd have a Lance Archer interview. And basically, Lance Archer, well, Dad, you want to explain Lance Archer? Because I know he's one of your favorites.
What? Didn't you miss Ivelisse versus Diamante?
That's after this.
Is it? Sorry, I had it in the wrong order. I have Lance Archer kills jobbers in the change room.
Yeah, so
while sweaty
do you
Jake
want
Robb.
to explain kind of Lance Archer's character to people?
He's just a monster. He's come over from Japan. He was in the United...
But he's not Japanese, though.
He was in the United States wrestling years ago, went over to Japan, which often happens, and they sort of hone their craft and learn a different style, and came back as this imposing...
They call him the Murder Hawk Monster.
Jake Roberts is his manager, and a lot of... Lance Archer's character is just him filming little segments where he is just destroying people.
Yeah, and so Jake Roberts would basically kind of cut the promo while he's just beating up 3 random goobers in a locker room.
And man, was Jake Roberts sweaty.
He slammed the guy into like the ceiling. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. He picked him up and sort of spiked him through the drop ceiling.
It looked kind of edited, but I think it looked very nice. So.
Yeah.
Next, our match was Diamante versus Ivelisse. And so I've got a note about both of them. So they're both Puerto Rican, and Diamante has been competing on Dark. I think her record was 1-3.
Yeah.
So that means she's lost 3.
I don't think I've actually seen her before.
And Ivelisse has been trained by Savia Vega, who's a star in the 90s.
She was in Lucha Underground, is where I've seen her the most.
Okay.
I think she had a cup of coffee with WWE.
And I think what they said is they've previously been partners.
Yes.
And one thing I found weird about this match is Big Swole, who's... Or neither nor.
We call her neither nor because she is neither big nor swole.
Yeah.
So.
And anyways, she had like a mid-match kind of promo thing in the middle of the match. Like, it was just like a video thing, so it was like playing in conjunction, kind of picture-in-picture, I guess. Anyways, it was really weird. They just did like the promo in the middle of the match. Usually they do that on WWE's kickoff shows, but on their Dynamite, I think it wasn't great, especially if they're trying to introduce
What did you think
to
of
an
these
extent.
girls? I like Evilise. I find her
Yeah.
a
I
really
found them both fine. I know one of my notes is lots of chops.
lots of chops, lots of strikes.
Yeah.
Evilise is a good
Elise
striker.
hit a good roundhouse kick when they were on the apron.
She's a strong heel. She's got good charisma. I don't know if I could see her as a face, but I think she's
More
a nice.
chops and a good kick exchange. Diamante German suplex, and Diamante would win with a small package. And one of my notes is it was a solid new talent showcase.
Yep.
Because I know, yes, I said Diamante has been on Dark a bit, but I think you really get your showcase if you debut on Dynamite. I think you can really get a good showcase there. Because, yeah, people probably watch Dark, but it's not a big stage. It's literally called Dark. And the term Dark match is like a non-televised match. Usually WWE does them like after or before shows, just as for something for the fans live in attendance.
I feel like Evilise will be the one in the
Yeah.
long run that they do more with, and that this is maybe the first sort of
Yeah.
part of some larger story they're going to tell. But
Um,
anyways, Evilise
And
is
our
good.
next match was Hangman
Yeah.
Adam Page, who is the tag team partner currently of Kenny Omega. And
Versus 5.
Yeah, 5 of the Dark Order, basically, because so the Dark Order is like it's kind of like a cult gimmick.
Yep.
And the leader is Mr. Brody Lee, who is Luke Harper formerly in WWE.
And I find it's getting more interesting lately.
Yep. It's definitely picking up. It's evolved from just a tag team to like it's a full-on thing now.
Yep.
And so Five's name is Alan Angels, and actually he competed in a squash match against Kenny Omega a little while ago.
Whoa! That was not a squash match, and it's one of the things that bugged me about
Ah.
it was they gave that guy so much against Omega.
Oh, right.
And I know that's
but it was-
Omega's
Okay,
thing, but-
supposedly a squash match.
Yes, he sells really well. This guy.
Okay, so Hangman Page usually wears black wrist tape, and so they usually do funny things on the nameplates.
Yeah,
On the entrances.
They do.
His nameplate was, "Let's see how this white wrist tape works."
Nice, good note because I didn't
It
catch
was
that.
funny, and I thought that was funny. And there was a new ref in this match I noticed, so I didn't recognize him. He might have been on Dark.
I
don't
didn't
know.
notice.
But there was a lot of chops with Hangman. I mean, like a lot.
Yep.
And my boy Kip Sabian, I think he was in a lawn chair in the crowd.
Nice.
And Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, 10, Alex Reynolds, John Silver came out to watch, who are all members of the Dark Order, basically. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson were the original tag team of
We've
this
seen
group.
them live before they were in AEW. They're
Yeah.
cool.
We
Stu
actually saw
Grayson,
them
a really
live.
nice guy. Talked to
actually
him
seen
for a
them
bit.
live.
Nice guy.
There was supposedly picture-in-picture again, but did not see it.
Yes. Air quotes.
Hangman,
Picture in picture.
Hangman Page hit his trademark fallaway slam, which if you don't know, they kind of like pick him up and then like you kind of throw him behind you and slam him, and then he would kip up. And Hangman Page would win with a pop-up powerbomb, but it was kind of like a delayed pop-up powerbomb. So he'd like pop him up, he kind of held him for a second, and then like slammed him down.
So were you annoyed? Because am I not mistaken? There was no buckshot.
Yeah, it's like so.
Jack
Hangman
loves
Page
the
does a
buckshot lariat.
Buckshot lariat, where
And they
it's like,
didn't do it.
he kind of flips over the rope because he'll stand on the apron, flips over the rope, and then close on it. It usually looks so cool, and he didn't do it, so
Yeah.
I'm sad.
So overall, what did you think of the show?
It was good, but I think so. There's a bit after this match that happened.
Oh, there was. Oh
Yeah.
yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
So Brody Lee, the leader of the Dark Order, remember, enters ring, cuts a promo. So he's impressed by Hangman. He's been impressed by him continually. Offers him a spot in the Dark Order. Hangman refuses, and Brody Lee walks
Wait,
out.
we haven't even hit
and,
the main event yet. Sorry.
and orders the Dark Order to attack him. FTR, who are tag team, make the save, and then Kenny Omega's tag team partner comes after.
FTR, my favorite tag team.
Yeah.
Maybe ever.
And then, so I've got some things to cover for next week. Is Hangman Page and Kenny Omega are going to defend against Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, the Dark Order. Going to defend the tag team titles next week, and as well as I kind of noted earlier, Darby Allin and Jon Moxley will be teaming up against Brian Cage and Ricky Starks in a tornado tag team match.
That should be fun.
And so tag team match, they tag in and out. Tornado tag, they're just all in the ring at the same time, so it should be interesting. And then lastly, for AEW Dynamite, we're going to have our main event, Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus The Inner Circles, Jake Hager, Chris Jericho.
Big fans of Jurassic Express.
And
here.
first thoughts on the match?
I thought it was really fun. Other than the Hager parts, I just have trouble dealing with
Alright, so
Hager.
we'll kind of go through the match together a little bit. So when they're doing their entrance, obviously there's still no Sammy Guevara because during the speaking up movement, he was suspended for
saying some
saying
pretty
some things
stupid
regarding
things.
WWE superstar Sasha Banks. If you want to find out about that, do that on your own time, because I don't think we need to go into it.
No, it's been covered.
And so it starts out with Jungle Boy and Jericho, and then they would just kind of do like your average opening kind of wrestling bits. Then they would tag in Luchasaurus and Jake Hager respectively, and Luchasaurus would hit his usual kick combo. He's got like slow kicks, but as Dad has mentioned many times,
They look heavy and
they're
precise,
like stiff,
is what
or,
I
like,
put.
They're like
He kicks
they're
slow, but he's
hard-hitting.
heavy. Yeah.
And Jericho and Hager both throughout this match worked Luchasaurus's legs, and just kind of targeting that. And it would lead to a Jungle Boy hot tag, and he does a suicide dive to take out Santana and Ortiz, who are the two other members of the Inner Circle, who are at ringside. And Ref gets distracted by Hager, and Marco Stunt, the little Marco Stunt,
Tiny Marco.
attacks Chris Jericho on behalf of the Jurassic Express. And then still no picture-in-picture during commercial. I feel like this was the countdown one.
It might have been.
Anyways. And I noticed the one commercial, there's a nice tribute to frontline workers.
One commercial? Not every commercial?
No.
Oh.
I just like, because I was writing notes, so I was just like, oh, that's nice.
That's good.
And Jericho's in control after commercial break, and then you tag in Hager, elbow to Jungle Boy, blah, blah, blah. Jericho grabbed their bat, and the referee takes it.
May I step in there for a minute?
Pardon?
That's a point that I wanted to discuss as well. So this might not be a popular, because everybody loves Aubrey, the referee, and I would say 85 to 90% of the time I love her as well, but those little things they do, this one was the one with the bat where they sort of make the match about her for a few seconds. That I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, I see your point on that.
In any sport, to me, the officials...
I like her too, but I see your point.
The best officials in any sport are not really noticed.
He reverses a double suplex for Luchasaurus hot tag. Hot tag is like he'll get beaten up for a long time, and then eventually he'll hit one move to opens up some free space, and tag in his partner, and he'll just hit like a bunch of moves, and then a drop kick by Marco Stunt to Jericho, another interference, tornado kick by Luchasaurus, and then Jungle Boy go hit a Hurricane Rana onto Santana and Ortiz, and then interference by Sir Pentago results in Jericho getting the win.
Yep.
And I predicted that it was Sammy Guevara, and it was.
It was.
Indeed, Sammy Guevara,
pulls the mask off to reveal Sammy Guevara's back. Yes.
The fifth member of the Inner Circle, Orange Cassidy, would walk out, and I think he had a new theme, and the best friends would chase off the Inner Circle, who were beating up Jurassic Express. And I think there's a 10-man tag next week, which is going to be Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, best friends, who are Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, and then Orange Cassidy will take on, I believe, the whole Inner Circle.
Nice.
And that wraps up our All Elite Wrestling Dynamite.
Yes, a good show. Couple really fun matches. I just wanted to sort of go back there to Jungle Boy. He's surprised me too. When AEW started, he's one of the few wrestlers I had really heard nothing about because I consume so much stuff. There's very few
Along with,
people
I feel
that
like
slip
maybe
through.
Darby Allin and Kip Sabian, who I really like. He was in the first ever AEW match. I just kind of didn't really pay much to him, and now I quite enjoy him.
So Jungle Boy, I didn't like his look, his name, he's obviously Jungle Boy, and he's got this long sort of Tarzanian hair, and he's wearing the loincloth and the whole deal.
Which is why MJF drew the comparison to Griff Garrison.
And he's the son of Luke Perry, Dylan McKay from 90210, my sister's favorite show that I will say I watched because she did, not because I enjoyed it, but that might be a lie. But the kid is amazing. He's if he can put on 20, 30 pounds, he's going to be a superstar. He seems to have chemistry with everybody.
Yeah, he's been quite good.
I'm super impressed, and honestly, I didn't think I would be. So, yeah, I would say overall, I never find AEW boring. It never feels like a chore to get through. Again, that might be just due to fresh faces and matchups. Because main roster does feel like a chore at times.
Especially
when
with a 3-hour show every week.
Well, yeah, nothing should be 3 hours long, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's good coverage, buddy.
Yep, that is our AEW review.
So now we're going to transition into what I got some positive feedback on, the segment that we call Off the Top of His Head.
Off the top of his head.
All right.
Yeah.
So what this is
Starring yours truly.
Jack has no idea what I'm going to talk about,
I
and I've
don't.
just learned over the years his memory and his, well,
Hopefully I do good this time.
just to give you a little background. This is the boy. He was a very avid reader from an early age.
I've got a Encyclopedia WWE one. It's a little dated because the most recent thing is like 2016, but it's still helpful for older stuff.
So he would be like 6, 7 years old, and he would fall asleep in a loft bed, and we would go and have to take out coffee table books on like WWE and Star Wars.
Or-
So
yeah.
he's been reading, devouring wrestling trivia for, well, maybe not 6, because that would have been Star Wars. You didn't watch wrestling till a bit later.
8.
So anyways,
I think
I'm
that's
trying to come up with questions or topics that will sort of show the breadth of his knowledge of this
I'm
sport,
just afraid
if you
I
will.
might not know one.
Okay, well, you might. It might make for terrible radio, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So this week, the topic, at least, is Money in the Bank winners.
Ooh.
Okay, so
I could probably go everyone.
that's what I was going to give you the option. You can either work your way backwards from the most current, because that's how I would do it, and you know how far I got was 2. So there's my memory.
I
that way.
can do either way.
So or you could start from the beginning and try and go forward.
Whatever you want me to do, I'll do either one.
It's up to you. So I have
No,
actually,
I can do either one, so you choose.
I'm going to fact check this one. So why don't you start from 2010, which was the first one, correct?
No, first one's 2005 if you're including WrestleMania.
Oh boy. Okay, well the list. So you've got more,
I can go.
technically more than Wikipedia right now. So go ahead. I'll catch up at
Wikipedia
2010.
sucks then.
Go
Okay, Edge in 2005, 2006 with Rob Van Dam.
again. He had no idea this question was
Yeah.
coming. He is looking at nothing. Go ahead.
2007 was Mr. Kennedy, but he would never cash in because Edge actually beat him in a match where the briefcase is on the line.
Okay.
2008 would be CM Punk.
Yep.
2009 would also be CM Punk, first 2-time winner,
Correct.
only really.
Now I'm ready. Go.
And then Jack Swagger was at WrestleMania in 2010, and then Kane won the SmackDown one. Miz won the Raw one because they have 2 separate brands at this time.
Correct. Those are correct.
2011, I believe it was Alberto Del Rio
Correct.
and Daniel Bryan.
Correct.
And 2012, John Cena.
Correct.
And let me think.
Great seller.
Oh, I know, Dolph Ziggler.
Correct.
And 2013 was Damian Sandow and Randy Orton.
Correct.
2014 was my boy Seth Rollins.
Correct.
And 2015 was Sheamus.
Correct.
2016 was my main boy Dean Ambrose,
Yep.
aka John Moxley. 2017,
Your
we
main
had
lady.
Baron Corbin.
Yep.
And then Carmella.
Yep.
And then there's kind of a second one on SmackDown, but still Carmella.
Yep.
And then 2018 we had Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss.
Correct.
2019 was Brock Lesnar and Bayley.
Correct.
And this year we had Otis and Asuka.
Wow, you nailed every single one. So I would say that was not a disappointment this week. Impressive.
Nope.
All right, so that was off the top of his head, which he now 2 weeks in a row has nailed it.
That was me being a big brain.
So our next segment we'll transition into is the NXT review.
NXT Review.
Yep. And so
Which-
Dad's going to be covering this one probably like I did with AW. We actually just watched it today, so it's going to be a little more fresher in our minds.
And mine aren't quite in as much detail as yours either, but we'll
yeah,
get there.
but I don't
So
know. I'll assist you along the way.
it's a unique situation in Canada for NXT. We really can't watch it on the night it's
Yeah,
actually
it's
broadcast. And
Not
now
a great situation.
on our cable, we pay for the app. We can only find a 1 hour sort of abridged version of the show. So despite me paying for the network, I still have to go find it other ways to be able to watch it, which is somewhat frustrating. But I
But
feel
we were able to
justified.
watch it,
I
so-
feel justified in doing so because I do actually pay
Yeah.
for it.
We were able to watch it, so we've got the review for you right now.
Yeah, we just finished that recently.
All
All
right,
right, so
so-
NXT the show begins with Regal talking about Keith Lee,
Yep.
and then directly into a Keith Lee promo.
That's what I've got.
He mentions his recently deceased trainer again, talks about life being about taking opportunities. He's going to vacate the North American title, obviously keep the NXT title. He's going to give others
Yeah.
the same opportunity he's gotten, and he's hoping to have
Yeah.
as many people as possible to get that chance.
And so that I kind of have an issue with now hearing that, because they only put 5 slots in this ladder match, and yeah, they could have done more, but it could have gotten a little crazy. So, but even then, the first North American champion was Adam Cole. That was crowned in a ladder match. That had 6 people, so they could at least do 6 people.
But I think what he's also saying is each of the matches to qualify into that, he's giving those people a chance too, right? So everybody
Fair
in the
enough.
triple. So that's a whole bunch of people.
I still think they could do 6 spots.
They could. A decent point.
But
and honestly,
set up for TakeOver 30.
I have that this is my favorite Keith Lee promo yet, because
pretty good.
normally I find him very insincere and just like he's putting on his shtick. So this felt like it was a little more natural and a little more believable.
Yeah, for sure.
It was my favorite promo of his, I think, which is good because he's a good wrestler and an interesting guy. So
all right, so take our opening match.
Regal announces the ladder match for TakeOver 30 with triple threat qualifying matches, and then we move into Dexter Lumis versus Killian Dane. So Lumis is playing like a serial killer stalker sort of character.
It sucks real bad.
It's got potential, I guess. And Killian Dane is just your brawling, oversized enhancement talent. So not
quite. For those of you who know who Albert is, he's modern day Albert because he's like super hairy.
So he's not quite a jobber, but he definitely doesn't win very often.
He's like Dad said earlier when we were watching NXT. He's much better in a faction because he was previously in a faction, who went to the main roster and failed real bad.
And came back.
It wasn't even their fault really, but yeah, he's back now. So this is his second run in NXT.
So Lumis slithers around the ring as Dane tries to get his hands on him. The match goes outside. Lumis dives over the steps to avoid them as he's getting sort of Irish whipped into them, and then takes a crossbody on the floor. Dane mauls Lumis for a while on the outside. Back in the ring with a second rope guillotine leg drop from Killian Dane, which is impressive. He's close to 300-pound man, I would say.
Yep.
We go to a commercial and come back with the announcers discussing how Robert Stone set up this match. Dane stays on offense with chops and a pump kick. Lumis takes over on offense, spinebuster, back suplex. Lumis misses a senton. Dane delivers a drop kick and a corner cannonball. Powerbomb, elbow drop.
I got that. Yeah, I got near fall for Dane with powerbomb elbow combo.
Powerbomb, elbow drop, near fall. Well, it's like we're related or something. Side effect to Dane. I don't know if he's calling it something else. But
no, I got Lumis hit side effect.
Looked like a side effect to me. Both men up the ropes. Dane is pushed off. Lumis hits a decent looking senton.
I thought it was pretty good.
Another side effect and his submission. I don't know what it's called.
Side
sorry. And Dane passes out.
Yep.
Not a bad match. Not normally a Lumis fan. I think there's potential there, but there's just something a little bit missing.
I think there is potential in this gimmick if they make tweaks to it. I don't think, as it is, I don't know how far it will go.
Dane continues his role as like a big man enhancement talent who can work a little bit. Meaning work. When we say work, we just mean wrestle in the ring.
Kind of just like Cassius Ohno.
He feels like he needs to be part of a faction or a group. I miss
Cassius Ohno.
I don't think he's gonna make it on his own. Next, we move to Sarah with an interview with Roderick Strong.
Sarah Schreiber.
And Roddy thinks he should be in the ladder match. Bronson Reed interrupts and says it's his time. Johnny Gargano interrupts and says that he will be champion again. And surprise, surprise, there's your first lineup for the triple threat match.
May I?
Of course.
So, Bronson Reed was wearing a shirt, and his new, nickname or tag thing, it's really bad. It's Thick Boy.
Yeah, Jackson's not a fan.
And spelled boy, B-O-I, like a child.
So he has it emblazoned across his chest.
They're calling, it's like, it's on a shirt. It's so stupid. It's just like, it's just so cringy. It's just like, it's terrible. And Bronson Reed's not that great to begin with. And do you really need to give him a terrible tagline like this? It's very bad. Thick Boy. Think about that. Thick Boy.
Okay, so I thought...
Thickboy.
Yes. I thought this was fine. Roddy, no offense, even though he's one of my favorites in the ring, is generally pretty brutal on the mic.
Yeah.
But this was really brief. I just put that it's going to be an uphill battle to get me to like Bronson Reed. It just did a
decent job of setting up the match.
He hasn't been booked strong. There's not. I don't find much going for him. But little did I know the results that would be later. Then we move into Everrise tag team match. Everrise.
Oh, I got a Dakota Kai vignette.
You did?
Yeah, because remember she was talking about Io Shirai.
I don't even think I got it. I don't remember. Go ahead.
Well, there's just a quick Dakota Kai vignette because last week she attacked Dakota Kai attacked Io Shirai after Io Shirai's championship match last week, and basically sitting out the title. It was nothing much.
Love
Just
Io.
wanted to mention it.
Love Dakota Kai. Would be very looking
It'll be
forward
fun.
to a program with those two.
And so the next match I didn't cover too much other than their entrance and the ending, so this is all you.
Everrise versus Breezango. And my first point here was I'm likely the only person to say, yeah, Everrise when they're announced. I like them. I don't know what it is about them. I just kind of like them.
That's true.
They're clearly positioned as just enhancement talent.
A lot of people are complaining about their name. And Breezango used a Mount T inspired entrance. And you'd think Mountie are like the police, but Mountie was actually a wrestler in like the 90s, so there's that, right? I think. So.
Yes, there is. Their entrances bug me. Their whole routine bugs me a little bit.
I miss like the selfie stick entrance.
This feels main roster to me. Feels like it's something from Raw and SmackDown, and I do not want that in my NXT. I've been watching NXT since day one. It's always been the sort of alternative. It's this little secret that nobody else knew about that the main roster geniuses.
All right, are you good covering
touch.
this match? Because I need to bathroom break quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I am leaving for the third time. Apologies, everybody.
Yes, we're very professional. We will get this figured out at some point. Don't worry. So, Breezango, they did do their Mountie entrance. Starts with Breeze against Chase Parker. Breeze keeps getting the better of Parker. Parker takes over offense after a distraction. Everrise tags and action goes outside. Martel dominates Breeze until he can tag in a fresh Fandango. Fandango does a salute and then just sort of falls forward to the outside onto both of the Everrise guys. There's a double super kick to each member of Everrise, and it ends with Breeze pinning Parker. I don't know, it was, I guess, an acceptable match. It was really just, to me, neither of these teams are on their way to superstardom. It's just kind of a mid-card holding pattern kind of battle. It was fine for what it was,
Sorry
I guess.
about that.
Didn't dazzle me, but didn't bore me either. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I didn't pay too much attention to this, and I think that says a lot about this. So,
Nice.
yeah, for what I saw, nothing too much. I think what you said, I think that's very fair. Just kind of a mid-card tag division. It's not like, so the tag team division, it's not like the singles division where there's like a mid-card title, but like you can often clearly define the higher up tag teams and the mid-card tag teams based on kind of the programs they've been doing and just like the matches they're in.
And these are both mid-card, I would say.
Yeah.
Tagged, even though
That's a fair
Breezango
assumption.
just had a tag shot or title shot, but that didn't feel real to me.
Yeah, but they didn't win. I don't think they were going to win, so that I think that's very mid-card.
Yep. So Tom Phillips talks about Cross versus Dijakovic.
I
Dijakovic
didn't get that.
is backstage being interviewed, and his new goal is to knock Cross unconscious. Aaliyah and Robert Stone versus Shotzi Blackheart. We don't really care
You gonna
for...
rant about Shotzi Blackheart, or shall I?
We don't care for either of these two. Aaliyah's been in NXT forever and has never...
And
I don't mean to be rude. She's a good Canadian girl, but she really hasn't improved very much.
my best memory of Aaliyah was when we went to a live tour, and some guys were yelling some funny things, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, she was playing a heel at that point from the
Yeah.
big city of Toronto, and she was looking down her noses because we were in a small town watching a house show.
I think it was Peterborough, or...
It was Peterborough. It might have been the best sort of mic work heel
It was
work
just
she's
funny,
done.
because, like, they were like, your parents must really hate you because they don't give her last name in the wrestling, so it was pretty funny.
Shotzi Blackheart
anyways.
is
Green hair.
we're not a fan.
She did a vignette the one week that I think heightened my hate for her, or it might have kicked it off, because like she said things like "eat my tank" and like I don't know. You said it felt very scripted.
Yes,
like-
she's feels like
And she does like a weird wolf
she's
howl.
1,000 gimmicks piled on top of each other.
And she has like a weird little tank.
So overall, I really don't know. She's got green hair and wears a military helmet and comes out in like a miniature tank.
My
and
note
screams
is
and
Shotzi
yells.
Blackheart's entrance will make you go dumb.
So
She says "Welcome to the ball pit."
she yells "Welcome to the ball pit"
Yeah, I got that.
as she makes her entrance. So there's missed kicks by each of the ladies to begin the match. Shotzi yells "Welcome to the ball pit" again in case we missed it the first time. There's a distraction by Stone and Aaliyah takes over
It's
outside
so
the
bad.
ring. Aaliyah on offense, which kind of needs air quotes almost. No offense, Aaliyah. Suplexes and a 2 count. Camel clutch to Shotzi.
Oh, I got notes of crappy face busters by both people.
Don't be mean. Camel clutch
It
to
just wasn't
Shotzi.
great.
Shotzi takes
No
over.
offense again.
Delivers a nice suplex. Aaliyah rolls up Shotzi, but ref catches her feet on the ropes. Shotzi takes control. Stone comes onto the apron. Blackheart kicks him off and hits a top rope senton that actually looked pretty good. I mean, we'll give
The
them credit when
senton-
it's due for sure.
What I'll say about that was it was fine, but I wish she got some jump on it. It looked like she just kind of fell a bit. Like,
Yeah.
it looked like she walked forward and just kind of fell off the top
But she
rope.
nailed it on the end at least.
But it was fine. It was fine.
So Shotzi wins. I mean, my expectations for this wasn't great, so it was. I mean, I keep saying it was fine. I guess.
And
It was
Shotzi
fine.
Blackheart would run over Robert Stone
Right.
again with her little tank.
So after the match, and then Mercedes
Oh my
Martinez attacks Shotzi, and the tank ends up on Robert Stone's leg again. And was that it there? I thought, didn't Mercedes, or was that later?
What?
Oh, that was later. Sorry.
Yeah, that's later.
Okay. So yeah, that was that. And next we cut to Swerve Scott
Isaiah Swerve Scott.
talking about dancing and how performing Michael Jackson in front of his school got him hooked on performing and sort of led him to this world of wrestling.
It was fine.
Yep, he compares wrestling to recording a music track because all of the sort of things have
With
to
the
work
gimmick
together.
that he's going with, I feel like that's a fine. It was fine
Yep.
for his gimmick, and I think it just kind of helps him keep momentum a bit.
He talks about his match with Gargano. He has a message for Santos Escobar, the Cruiserweight Champion. He will beat Escobar to be the new Cruiserweight Champion. I actually really like this. It's adding a bit of depth
I
finally
think
to
it could be a
Swerve's.
good program.
Swerve up until this point has just been he's the super confident, very athletic, very
Yeah.
fast performer, and they're sort of fleshing out his character, giving a little bit of
Like
a
many
background.
stars like Dexter Loomis and Bronson Reed, aka Thick Boy. There was a tournament last year called the Breakout Tournament where it was basically just all new guys were brought in, and so that's like when he started. So he's been in NXT for almost a year because the finals were at TakeOver Toronto, right? So,
And he's pretty fun in the ring. I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of him in Lucha Underground and some other places. He can
Yeah.
really go, so it's nice to see
previously Shane Strickland and
them, right, develop his kill shot,
Yeah.
develop his character a little bit. Okay, so we now get the triple threat match: Gargano versus Reed versus Strong.
you know what I called it? Johnny Gargano versus Roderick Strong versus Thick Boy.
Of course you did. Even though you hate the name, you feel compelled to say it.
It's just
and
so
say it.
bad. I just can't get it in my head. Okay, you cover the match because most
Starts
of it.
out with Reed being big and running over the other two. They decide to work
Reed being
together, but neither one is effective.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pause there for a second. That's a problem for me. This is Johnny Gargano. This is the face of this company for a while. This is a former
Yeah.
champion of the company
Yeah.
for a while who took on all comers and defeated people twice his size.
Yeah.
But now he's
A cowardly
he's
heel.
well, not even that, but he needs help with a mid-card big guy. He needs help from Roderick Strong, and they still can't even
And
get the guy
he
down.
took out what? Who would he have fought that's like bigger?
Oh, I don't know. That just bothered me that now he's gone to like he can't handle a mid-card wrestler
He
on
can't
his
handle
own.
a
He
thick
can't even
boy.
handle it with help from another guy. So
Yeah.
anyways, Reed hits power moves on both of them for a bit.
One of them that was really good actually was like he did an Uranagi slam. He would slam Strong onto Gargano. It was actually
Yes.
pretty cool.
I think there was a botched fall away / Samoan drop that he was going to hit on
Oh,
both
yeah.
of them simultaneously, but they sort of slipped. There's a knee to the head by Strong to Reed as he attempts to dive to the outside to stop his momentum. Roddy and Johnny then take over on offense, and
Oh yeah, there's that power bomb on the outside.
I don't remember what it was now, but
It
I
was
have
really good.
innovative tandem crotch shot by Roddy and Johnny.
Oh yeah, so I actually do have this.
Good.
It was like
I don't
so,
remember already.
Let me see. I do have it here. I feel like. Where is it?
Gargano then gets Reed outside. We'll come back.
Gargano did, I think, like it was a catapult, and like I think Roderick Strong's head went into his nuts.
Oh, nice.
And there was a power bomb on the outside that looked really
It
good.
did. Gargano gets Reed outside, and we get Johnny and Roddy back in ring for a bit, which is what I really want to see. These guys are just incredibly
Yeah,
fast and
one of
crisp
my
and
notes actually
amazing.
early on was like, I feel like Bronson Reed kind of felt weird in the match, not because I don't like him, well, partly that, but I just feel like he couldn't really keep pace with the two smaller guys who are known for being workhorses.
Right, and they are. And I think they're just trying to build Reed at this point, right? And there's nothing wrong with trying that, and they eventually may win me over, and I may love the guy.
Yeah.
I'm open-minded, but right now he's not doing it for me.
Yeah.
Backbreaker stronghold attempt. Reed back in to break it up and take over with more power moves. Reed covers Roddy. Gargano drop kick to Reed to break up the count. Gorilla press attempt by Reed to Roddy. Gargano low drop kicks to collapse Reed. Olympic slam to Reed
Yeah,
with
I
a
got
near
that.
fall. Gargano and Strong battle outside and get hit by a plancha by Reed that actually looked kind of cool. Reed, they kind of redo the spot from before. This time it's a fall away slam to both. And I had this was nice, right? I don't know if to explain this right. Matrix kind of by Johnny to avoid Strong while at the same time delivering a reverse Rana to Reed. Remember that?
Oh yes.
I don't know if that's
Because like so
explaining it.
basically Bronson Reed had him in an electric chair, which is like him kind of sitting on his shoulders, and so I think Roddy was going to go to try to like do a diving clothesline on him, and so he would duck that kind of Matrix
Like
move you
Matrix
mentioned,
back, bent
and
back.
turn into a poison rod, which is like a reverse rod. It lands on his head. Very cool.
Looked very cool, I have
Very
to say.
And it's very interesting seeing it hit on a big man because I think that's partly why it was so cool because you don't see it hit on a guy like Bronson Reed a lot because usually smaller guys sell it better.
I think this is what you were saying earlier. Knee to Reed's face into a power bomb from apron to floor.
Yes.
That looked awesome.
That's what it is.
Gargano and Strong battle while Reed outside. Fast, lots of reversals between these two guys. Amazing.
I noted a great sequence by them. I don't remember specifically.
Just so quick, so crisp, no
Yeah.
botches, everything's perfect. Power breaker. I don't even know what I meant. From Strong to Gargano. Oh, that's it. That's the name of that move now, right?
What?
The power breaker. I forget what it was.
Is the end of Heartache, the suplex backstabber?
Yes, I think it was.
It's the end of Heartache.
Well, not anymore, I guess. Gargano DDT's Strong and attempts to cover him by draping an arm over him because he's exhausted, so all he can get is an arm. Reed hits a top rope splash to
Which
Strong
is his finisher.
and Gargano's arm. So Gargano rolls away in pain because his arm just got crushed by
Big Boy.
Reed,
By a
and
Big
that
Boy.
opens up Reed sneaking in to get the pinfall win, which was
I noted
quite
that this is
surprising.
Bronson Reed's best performance yet. Well,
It
I
was.
don't think there's a high bar because he hasn't done too much. That's interesting. But I think it was good. I think they did a decent job in elevating him, but I think it also kind of damaged Gargano in the match a bit, in my opinion.
Especially because I sort of talked about it while we were watching
Yeah.
it. They didn't go back and point out that
The arm
Gargano's
thing.
arm is there trying to cover, and Bronson Reed landed on it. Because
'Cause-
in the
yeah.
moment, it almost looked like Johnny Gargano just rolls out of the way and lets him cover him until you notice, oh, his arm got crushed. I think they on commentary.
And
needed
like
to-
you mentioned earlier, him not being able to take a big man mid-carder down is...
Not my favorite.
Right.
So
You win some feet, you
I
lose some feet.
get the idea. Again, it's two smaller guys trying to overcome the powerhouse. But Reed hasn't been built to the point where
Yeah,
that
like
seems
I think he
necessary.
lost to like Cameron Grimes and
Right.
Karrion Cross.
And I
Right.
put and maybe Gargano is too important for this question mark.
Yeah.
It's Reed's best match, and I don't mind
If-
attempts to sort of.
If Gargano's face again, then yeah, I think he deserves to be back in the main event.
Yep.
I don't think his NXT title run went long enough. I
And
think it's
again-
also because he didn't beat Ciampa for it.
I want them to keep trying and build new stars if they can. Even if I don't love all of them, that's what you have to do. Build new stars. Don't
Yeah,
just
you
keep
need the
going to the
future
same
brand.
well. All right, so moving on, I have recap of 3 weeks ago when Thatcher tapped Oni Lorcan. So now we have Thatcher versus Lorcan
The
2.
rematch.
Right. My first note is that Thatcher's resting face is awesome. He just looks so surly and angry. Like his just default face is just
I liked when
very
like,
expressive.
when they were showing the flashback. He was like that the angry face when he had the submission.
he has
He just looks so like crazy,
He does.
just out of control. It's a good look for what the character that they're going with.
It is, and I honestly didn't think I was
Yeah,
gonna like him,
yeah.
but I think there's room for this. He's just
yeah,
a killer.
it's not my style, but unlike Loomis, I actually see this having potential.
Yes. So Thatcher is the grappler's grappler. He is the
Yeah.
He's gonna mat wrestle you and bend you into a pretzel and submit you. So that's his gimmick, which isn't my favorite style of wrestling, but there's room for
There
it.
is
I
a
think.
place for it,
Of course.
right? So,
I want different matches throughout,
Yeah.
so this is different.
because
You-
like, what if he's facing someone like Gargano, for example? Because that would be an interesting match.
It would. So Thatcher, grappling to start as both are trying to get an advantage.
Yeah, I noted lots of mat based and chain wrestling.
Lots of mat wrestling and reversals. Yep.
Yep.
Chops, a suplex by Thatcher, and back to more mat wrestling. Thatcher's dominating on the mat for the first part, working
Yeah.
various limbs and joints.
Mhm.
Lorcan gets free, hits a few running uppercuts. He slides to the outside where Thatcher takes his arm. Thatcher's sent into the ring post outside. Back in the ring with Lorcan on offense, uppercuts, some joint manipulation, slaps by Thatcher, a single leg crab by Lorcan into an armbar. We get Thatcher out of desperation fish hooking, which I kind of like too. The guy just doesn't care, right? He's just
I
gonna
think
hurt you.
Lorcan also did a fish hook too, and then shoves Thatcher in the ring post on
Yep.
the outside.
Yep. Half and half suplex by Lorcan for a near fall. Lorcan takes Thatcher's arm. Thatcher takes Lorcan to the mat and pins him. So again, a different style match, which is good. These aren't my favorite
But
types.
again, it deserves the place.
Of course, not my favorite types of matches, but I have no problem with this. And honestly, Thatcher's growing on me. When he first came, I just thought, this is just a bland, boring submission
Yeah, because
guy.
he was just teaming with Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
But then they gave him the heel turn. There was like the fight pit match. And again, there's a place for it, so which is why I think this is working.
Yep, and he's a good heel.
It's diversifying their roster, which
sure.
is good.
Okay.
And you mentioned the Mercedes Martinez thing. This is, I think,
That's
where this
here.
comes in.
Exactly. So Mackenzie talks to Robert Stone backstage. Mercedes Martinez approaches and wants someone to handle all of her business.
So my takeaway from this is just like, so my main bullet point is like Mercedes Martinez joins the Robert Stone brand, and then I wrote simply to focus on in-ring stuff.
Right. So he's
is
to
the
look
point.
over the business so she can focus on hurting people. She shakes Stone's hand and is officially part of the Robert Stone brand. Mercedes Martinez has a cool look. She's a super experienced veteran. I think she's worked as a trainer for them. She can wrestle in the ring, and I like the idea that she's a heel and just wants to hurt people. So I'm open to this idea, and I think she adds just another character to their women's division, which is pretty stacked
But she will never replace Shayna Baszler.
Fair enough. Next, I have Finn Balor vignette. He will take the North American Championship since Keith Lee isn't man enough to defend it. So I don't know if that's leaving an opening for them to sort of cross paths later.
Finn Balor versus Dexter Lumis versus Timothy Thatcher in a qualifying match for that ladder match next week. I'm hoping Balor wins this because I think he deserves it.
Yes. So
Even
then,
if he doesn't win the ladder match.
Yes, that should be a good match. There's some good matches shaping up.
3 different styles.
Yep. Our main event, Karrion Kross versus Dijakovic.
You know what's funny is all my notes here I wrote Killer Cross.
Well, that's fair.
Because that was his name in Impact. We actually seen him. Did we see him live? I think,
Yeah, we
right?
did.
And then we also watched him on TV. So
Yeah.
we've seen him many times before this. So it's nice to see him make it to the big leagues.
Yeah, and I've watched him he was in Lucha Underground as well back in the day. This is actually my favorite version of him from what I've seen of him so far.
Yeah.
So my first note is what an entrance by Kross.
Yeah.
And they clearly have big plans for him. They're not going to put the resources into developing this type of entrance.
Yeah, they're not holding that.
Right, and Scarlett's great in it as well. So they
are.
are...
Again, like the Darby Allin thing, I say if you haven't seen his entrance, go watch on YouTube. Search up Karrion Kross entrance. It's very good.
It's very sort of
the
dark.
theme goes with
and
it. It creates an aura.
Yep.
Very much like Undertaker.
It makes him look fantastic. Makes them both look fantastic. I should just focus on him. She's part of it as well, and she looks great.
She's a great manager.
So we have a lock-up sort of power struggle.
Collar and elbow tie-up, they call it.
These are both big guys, so that takes a couple attempts. Eventually, Dijakovic pushes Kross back into the corner. Kross doesn't break clean, obviously. When you're in the ropes, you're supposed to break clean and sort of go back to the middle.
Yeah.
He does not, and takes control for the face lock from there. Sorry, go ahead.
And that's a common thing you're going to see with heels, because when they're doing the collar and elbow tie-up, usually one of them, they'll push the other into the ropes. If it's a face, they'll probably break clean. And if it's a heel, they'll probably break or not break clean. Or sometimes they'll break clean, but then hit them afterwards.
So Dijakovic attempts to feast your eyes, but it's reversed. A Saito suplex attempt from Kross is reversed. Forearms to Kross, and Kross goes outside. Kross gets kicked in the head while outside the ring, gets rolled back in. Kross gains control with a knee, head kick, and a quick DDT. Was a nice little sequence. Back from the commercial, Kross is in control on the ground. Dijakovic fights up to his feet, but takes the Doomsday Saito, which it does look cool. I know it's just a regular suplex, but he seems to put a little extra stink on it.
It's like he kind of turns and then drops him higher on his neck than the average back suplex.
Yeah, it looks really good. Submission reversal, and Dijakovic hits a forearm that staggers Kross to the corner. Punches, forearms, kicks, elbows to Kross. Suplex by Dijakovic, and a sit-out chokeslam that I said nice with beside.
Did we go past the part where Kross tries to punch him on the outside?
I don't even think I made a note of that, but yes,
Okay.
At one point you guys punches.
They have basically on top of the normal ring barricades, obviously given the global pandemic, they've got plexiglass. So Kross tries to punch him, and he hits the plexiglass, like just straight up punches the plexiglass. and then Dijakovic hits him with the kick. But continue.
Tope by Dijakovic to the outside follows.
I called it spotty because it was like it looked like he just barely got over.
Yeah,
it was,
just cleared the ropes.
It was fine.
He follows to the outside but gets thrown into the steps and Cross is back in control. Cross sets up Dijakovic outside and kicks the ring steps into his face.
Yep.
Ref forces Cross back into the ring, saying Cross, quote, has gone too far. Cross goes back outside, drags Dijakovic in, rains down forearms on the defenseless Dijakovic. Keith Lee shows up, and he and Cross stare at each other. Dijakovic wants to continue and says, my call, repeatedly, as it looks like Keith Lee may want to jump in and stop things and help him.
Or maybe grab a towel.
Demands that he doesn't help him at all. Cross puts Dijakovic in a submission while facing and staring down Lee, and then there's a ref stoppage. And basically,
what's called the cross jacket.
My final comment is Cross is a monster. Good match that furthered a story.
This could set up a title feud. Although I feel like it might be too soon.
Yeah.
A little. I feel like you could do at least one more feud like the one you had with Tommaso Ciampa, but that's just me.
So I liked the finish of the show. Again, this show didn't bore me. I would have to say I liked AEW a bit better this week, maybe. But it's always pretty close. NXT is generally a pretty good product.
But I always find AEW slightly better because, like you said, NXT is getting very slightly more like the main roster, and that's not good.
Yeah, and I find I'm always really looking forward to watching AEW. Like, I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday night, we gotta watch. It's like appointment viewing, right? Which is
I think part of it is just not being able to watch NXT right away like we used to.
Right. It's true that they're sort of, that's their own fault a little bit.
It just kind of sucks.
We couldn't even watch them first if we wanted to, so too bad for them.
Because, like, there's no way I'm waiting till, like, today to watch AEW just because I want to watch NXT.
Right. Okay, so our second last segment is just something quick where it's gonna be called Any Other Wrestling Business.
I'd like to discuss quick The Fiend's return.
Yep.
Yes.
So you do that quickly, and then I'll.
For those of you who don't know, Bray Wyatt, over the past year, he's been doing a kind of a double gimmick, would you say?
Yeah.
He's got the Firefly Funhouse, which, yes, it sounds ridiculous, but just bear with me. Where he plays like kind of like the friendly children's host, and then his alter ego, the Fiend, he's got a sick looking mask, and it's like just this like, psychotic monster kind of character.
Yeah, so he's basically
literally got gloves that say hurt and heal.
For those of you more literary or experienced folk, it's like a Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or it's like a Mr. Rogers, and then he becomes like a, I don't know, like a horror figure sort of thing.
Yeah, and so basically he's been gone since WrestleMania, which was April, and so there's a swamp match. Bray Wyatt brought back his original gimmick, which is like kind of a cult leader.
The best version of Bray Wyatt.
No. And then so they had a swamp match, and basically at the end, Braun Strowman's just like down in the swamp, like it's like the swamp water, and then the water turns red, and out rises my boy, the Fiend. And speaking of, I want to get that figure for my birthday.
Good luck.
Thanks.
I wish you luck. It's coming up. We'll see.
Okay.
So
you cover one.
So I just wanted to quickly say that I watched Slammiversary. I didn't
Impact Wrestling.
Yes, Impact Wrestling Slammiversary. Is that their biggest show? Or is Bound for
either
Glory?
that or Bound for Glory. I would consider this the bigger show, but
anyways, I've heard other people talk about it, and a lot of people really liked it. I thought it was decent. I didn't like the whole thing.
From what I've seen, it looked fine, but I know you watched it.
The opening tag match was really good. It was Wentz and another guy?
Zachary Wentz though, and then I think it Dez, right?
Yeah.
Desmond Xavier.
So they're really entertaining. I thought that match was fast.
They fought the Motor City Machine Guns, if I'm not mistaken.
Very good. So it was just a fast, great opener to a pay-per-view. Yeah. I'm a sucker for tag team
And for
wrestling.
those of you who don't know, the Motor City Machine Guns, I think were in Impact, 10 years ago, I think?
Maybe more.
Yeah. And so basically it's just their return.
Yep, and it was a good match. Great opener. I was hoping the sort of set a pace that they didn't keep up with at times, but the women's title match was good. Jordan Grace versus Deonna Purrazzo. They put the belt on Purrazzo right away. To be honest, the women's division in Impact is pretty good. They've
pretty thorough for what they have.
It's fairly deep roster and interesting. The main issue I had with this pay-per-view was that they are truly going with an empty arena.
Much like WWE was for a while.
It's it is tough.
Not even like the extra personnel like the other companies have been doing. Which, if they get some people in the crowd, I'm totally open to watching it. But after WWE, like, just consistently, I don't think I can do
It was
a
tough.
pure empty arena. So if they get a crowd of some sorts, then I will watch it.
Yep.
But if they don't, then I'll just keep tabs on it.
Yep. Moose, I didn't really enjoy the match he was in, but he's gotten a lot better, especially character-wise. He's really
Yeah, from when went, which
Yeah.
was, 2 years ago?
his
right?
his charisma's way better.
We were part of his first heel turn.
He's sort of that's right. He sort of he tear up.
Yeah, he tore up Nate's sign.
We
so
were ringside
He
for
tore up
Impact
my brother's
Wrestling
sign. It was
taping,
pretty
and
awesome.
on his way by, he turned heel, and my son, well, my wife had made it for my son a Moose sign, and I literally whispered to Moose on the way by, "You can tear up my kid's sign," and he did. He grabbed it and tore it up, and it was pretty cool. So
Yep.
we were part of his heel turn.
Yep. Front
Um,
row, baby.
So my comments were sort of that the returning stars they did actually bring back were sort of underwhelming after they had teased much larger stars. You know, you tease Sting, you tease Kurt Angle, and then you bring Heath Slater. You know what I mean? Like, no offense,
Although
Heath Slater.
EC3 was definitely
Um,
because EC3 I think is one of those stars that they made, so I
Yes.
think it's a big return for that company. But
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Heath, not exactly a blockbuster
no,
return.
his segment during Slammiversary didn't do much for me. There were some audio issues too.
It's again no offense to him, but he's just, especially when he's been in WWE basically his whole career, right? They just never booked him as a credible star, so I don't think when he shows up somewhere you're exactly gonna be like, oh my god, it's Heath Slater.
No. The main event had some really good parts. I really like Ace Austin. I didn't know he was that young. He, I think, has massive potential. I would have thought they could have put the belt on him just as sort of a surprise and just take this thing in a different direction.
And go with the new guy.
But they went the safe route, I think, and put it back on Eddie Edwards, which is fine. He doesn't
It's
really
fine, I
do much
think.
for me, but it's safe.
It could enter into a program with Ace Austin.
Yeah. So that was just a quick Slammiversary. Was again there was 2 or
And-
3 matches I really enjoyed, and then some other stuff.
Do you
that
have anything else to cover?
just
Because
had
I've
to
got
get
one
to.
thing that I want to
Is
cover.
it really quick? Because we're
Yeah.
getting lengthy. Go ahead.
And so Evil from NJPW,
Oh, right.
New Japan Pro Wrestling, becomes a double champion, defeating Tetsuya Naito at, what was it called, Dominion, I
Yep.
believe?
Dominion.
He wins their heavyweight and intercontinental titles. Now Tetsuya Naito was already a double champion,
was.
so it's just for both belts. It wasn't a winner take all or anything. Well, you know what I mean.
Gee, I wonder where WWE got the idea for all these people with 2 belts.
Oh,
Weird.
Yeah, I
It
don't
just
know.
came to them, I imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
Uh,
Vince McMahon's like, oh, I should do that.
So that sort of ends our wrestling coverage and things, and we do have one final segment that's just. So we realize we're
It's
sort of
me again.
creating a niche product already by talking about wrestling. So we're even going to go in the final segment weekly is
More
even
niche.
more niche-er, if you will. And
The
we're gonna now.
niches.
Jack's gonna sort of talk about one of his passions, which is the wrestling figures. I was gonna say WWE, but they're now produced by AEW as well. So this segment
Yeah.
we will call "Figuring It Out with Jack."
Figuring it out with Jack.
And basically, so recently we have had the San Diego Comic-Con, which is now Comic-Con at home, obviously with the global pandemic, and we've got a lot of reveals. We've got the in-packaging reveals for Elite 78, so that's the 78 series of their Elite figure line, and then we've also got 79 and 80, and there's one other thing I'd like to cover. So we've got the packaging reveals. We've got Randy Orton, who's like, it's got an updated face scan and got the normal jacket. We've got Naomi. I've got the Chase one on my phone here. It's neon green, and it's also got a glow-in-the-dark championship belt. R-Truth with the 24/7 championship. He has not seen Elite in a while, so that's nice. A first-time Elite in Drake Maverick. He's got a cloth t-shirt and a mini Wanted poster. We've got Matt Riddle. He's got his flip-flops and his entrance jacket and the headband and some interchangeable hands, which all of the figures come with. Then we've got the normal Naomi, which is a different attire but same accessories. Then we've got Kofi Kingston, who's got the SmackDown Tag Team Championship and a plate of pancakes. And that's going to wrap up our Elite 78. We've also got there's a store exclusive, Billy Graham. And so Elite 79, they revealed, we've got Big E, who's got the same accessories as Kofi Kingston, pancake platter, and SmackDown Tag Team title. Xavier Woods, who's got his Up Up Down Down title, which is a custom title he made for his video game channel, which is called Up Up Down Down. And he's got an alternate head and his trombone accessory. Daniel Bryan, who's got 2 heads. He's got the longer hair, and then he got his head shaved, so he's got the shaved head as well. 4 pairs of interchangeable hands with this one, which is interesting. Roman Reigns got 2 heads. He's got the man bun and then the long hair. He's got a new vest, the big dog logo on it. It's got a universal title. Interesting. We've got Bobby Fish in the normal attire. He's got camo, and it looks pretty cool. We've got Undisputed Era shirt, NXT Tag Team title. He's also got a chase, which is in like more of a black and yellow attire, which is like going to be a rarer version. Then we've also got Io Shirai, first time in the line, and her attire is from TakeOver Toronto, the one we were at, so that's pretty cool. And then Elite 80, we have Eric and Ivar revealed, the Viking Raiders. We had Kevin Owens revealed as well. And then we also had Kyle O'Reilly in the camo, much like Bobby Fish because they are a tag team. And then the black and yellow. And then we've got computer-generated images for Ricochet and Bayley. And then the final thing I'd like to cover are the new Elite 2-packs that have been revealed. We've got, from WCW, we've got Bret Hart and Goldberg. Bret Hart has sunglasses, the metal plate he wore.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, which is the segment that this is based off of. And the WCW United States title, Goldberg has interchangeable heads and interchangeable hands. And this comes with a cloth WCW Nitro t-shirt. And then the other 2 packs.
So when will these series be coming out?
I would say probably in the fall if I had to guess.
Nice.
Maybe Elite 78, like September-ish.
So what you're looking at are like the artist renderings of before they make the figure, or is it like the prototype? Or
Elite 78, 79, and 80 are like mostly like images of the figures.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Ricochet and Bayley are computer generated
Right.
images, so some of them are. There's a lot of more reveals that we'll cover later, but we've also got computer generated images of another Elite 2-pack, which is Mr. T versus Roddy Piper. Yes, that's Mr. T from the A-Team. This is from their boxing match at WrestleMania 2, so it's got boxing hands and normal hands. And that's going to wrap that up for today.
Awesome. So as we come up to like an hour and a half here, we've been talking, didn't feel like it.
Wow.
Maybe we'll try and pare it down in the future, but we'll see. If people can tolerate listening to us for this long, I don't mind talking for
If
this
you
long.
have listened to the whole thing, if you've made it this far, thank you.
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate it
amazing.
very much.
We appreciate any support we get. We're hoping that a few people listen to this, enjoy it, at least, and if more, then great. So you can obviously reach us on YouTube, where FNS Wrestling is where you're probably listening to this in the first place. I didn't need to tell you. We also have an email address, fnswrestling@gmail.com. And Jackson, Instagram?
And we've got our Instagram account, which is FNS_wrestling_podcast, no caps.
So on behalf of Jackson and myself, we'd just like to thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen to us and support us.
Thank you.
Please feel free to send us some feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like, what we can do. I hope the audio is okay. I've been sort of battling it. I'm learning as we go here. It's sort of been a bit of trial and error, so hopefully it sounds
And if you're
okay.
listening to this and you haven't subscribed yet, you better subscribe.
So that's going to wrap it up for FNS Wrestling Episode 1. We thank you all again, and we look forward to interacting with you and having you listen to us again next week. Take care.
The next Figuring It Out will probably either be more SDCC reveals and maybe a bit of my birthday receivings.
Yes, we'll probably go through the figures he
which
got
is
for his
on
birthday.
Monday.
So look forward to that, people.
Yep.
Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.